Everybody, welcome back to the Sad Dad Games podcast. Today, you're joining us for another episode of Eric's Indie Corner. I will be your host, Eric. Today, I'm joined by...
I'm Shan.
I'm Luke.
All right. So, for those of you listening for the first time, Eric's Indie Corner is a time where we take a little bit of a break from our regular content and focus on an indie game that I love, hence the name Eric's Indie Corner. Today, we're going to be talking... I realized the past several episodes of Eric's Indie Corner have been a lot about very happy, light, kind of mellow games. And so I wanted to represent another kind of game that I really enjoy, super difficult, hyper-violent 2D platformers. And with that in mind, we're going to be talking today about Katana Zero.
Yes.
Katana Zero is a super cool game. Really excited to talk about it. It's one that I've been saving for the last few weeks because I really like it, and I wanted to get more comfortable with this structure before I talked about it so that I didn't ruin it too much by being a newbie at talking about things on the internet. So here we go, jumping right in. As I mentioned, Katana Zero is a 2D platformer. It has a heavy emphasis on story. And it's developed by a studio called ASCIIsoft, which I probably pronounced wrong, which is basically the studio is just one man, Justin Strander. So this is another solo developed game, which is super cool. I don't know how people do that. It's amazing. And the release date, so originally released on Windows, macOS, and Switch in April of 2019. So we're going to break it down. We're going to talk about story. We're going to talk about gameplay. We're going to talk about visuals and sound, and then some final thoughts. So first off, the story is you play as a nameless katana-wielding assassin known as the Dragon. You're given targets to assassinate, and you move through levels to assassinate those targets. The story quickly starts unfolding into something much more complex and interesting, but it has a very neo-noir setting, just dripping with neon, almost a cyberpunk kind of a vibe. It's sort of hard to describe, but it's a very interesting story that as you go along, you kind of find yourself in the story of kind of twisted murder and drugs and mystery and just this dark underworld, and you're just a katana man going around killing people. It's very cool. So
it's like everything I want in a fast-moving platformer, violent game. I mean, I haven't gotten to play it through, right? Eric's the pro here, but I've watched gameplay, I've watched the trailer, and it just looks like non-stop slashing action, blood spatters all over the wall. It looks like such a fluid gameplay, like such a fluid mess of fun.
Sorry, I'm going to sound stupid. What's that guy's name in Avengers?
does it narrow it down?
No.
That one guy, the guy in Avengers.
Hawkeye, right?
Hawkeye?
When
the main Avenger, yes.
When
continue.
he goes samurai katana
Ronin.
mode.
Yeah.
Ronin. When he goes Ronin, is that kind of what this is? Is where he goes city mode killer?
Yeah, did Thanos kill his family?
Like based on what I'm looking here,
Yep.
he goes city killer against like the mafia and everything. That's kind of the vibes I'm getting here.
I think that the actual story is pretty different from that, but the vibes of just like a lone swordsman going around killing a bunch of people, yeah, that's pretty much what it is. It's hard to talk about the story for a couple of reasons. The story is kind of intentionally convoluted, and so it makes you feel kind of, it has some like hints of like elements of it having an unreliable narrator. So you don't always know what's real and what's fake and what is actually going on. For example, the assassin that you play as, he's given a drug that lets him alter time, but it also makes his brain be crazy, like drugs be doing.
Like drugs
And
do.
so-
Psychological.
So it's got this psychological twist, and it's like your handler that gives you your contracts is your psychiatrist, and he's also your drug dealer. Like he gives you your drugs and you have therapy sessions, and then he gives you people to kill. And so it's this really like weird web of like, who can I trust? Who are the good guys? Am I a bad guy? And like I said, I feel when we talk about stories in Eric's Indie episodes, I don't want to talk about it too much because you should just play it. It's a cool story. Experience it for yourself. But yeah.
I
So
already
it's
have so
basically
many
like the
theories.
Avengers. Yeah.
I already have
It's
so many
exactly
theories
like
about
It's
this
exactly like that.
story. So the psychiatrist being his drug dealer, the drugs, do they make him more powerful? Do they like focus his powers?
Well, that is an excellent segue into our next section, Luke. We're going to talk about gameplay now. And I couldn't have planned that better.
Flawless.
Applaud for Luke for being good at things.
Sometimes.
So sometimes in this one instance, Luke was really good at this one thing. But so the drug that you're given, it gives the user precognitive abilities, and which loops really tightly into the gameplay. So the gameplay is you have a sword and you can kill everything in one hit, but you also die if you get hit once. There you're put in a room and there are enemies there, and you have to find an optimal path where you can just kind of go around and slice down everybody without getting hit at all. And so you can do cool things where if someone shoots, you can slash your sword and slash the bullet back at them. And it'll hit them, and then you can slice them with your sword. You can also pick up objects as you're running around and throw it at an enemy. And so you're balancing all of these different moves and like trying to see how fast you can take people out and without you getting hit at all. And how that ties into the precognitive drug is the dragon. He'll sit there at the beginning of level and he'll go like doopa doopa doo, and you try your thing, you play the level, and then if you mess up, he goes, no, that won't work, and then it rewinds and you start right back where you were. And so he's like planning out his steps in his
Cool.
head, and then once you do your flawless run, it plays everything back at normal speed, so you can watch how much of a cool murder man you were at real speed, which is super cool.
So this is a pre-crime situation. So you're actually Tom Cruise in
Mhm.
Minority Report. So it's
Yep.
actually, is it technically unethical because they've actually never committed the crime?
Well, you commit the crimes immediately after you precognate them, so
Well,
So
you're committing the crime,
yes.
but they've never committed the crime that you're killing them for.
So is it more like your
it's
Sherlock
not justice.
Holmes, where you're analyzing how this fight is going to go all at
Yes.
once before you execute your sequence?
Yeah, it's like that. So those of you who have seen the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes movies, where he like in his
The
brain
Iron
he
Man
plans out.
Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, he plans out how he's going to attack someone. He's like, I'm going to do this, and then I'll hit him in the sternum, and it'll cause this. And it's like that, where he's like in his brain, he's planning his steps, and then once he plans it out, you get to watch a little video of him doing what you just did. But the gameplay is super tight, super fluid, and it's just really awesome to like kick in a door, knock over a guy, slice his friend with a sword, and then you grab a bottle off of the floor, throw it at someone else, jump in the air, hit a bullet back, and then slice another person, all before you've touched the ground once. Like it's this really cool dance of you just kind of being this unstoppable force of death. Very cool.
It's like Spider-Man with his spidey senses if he had a sword and killed people.
Yeah, so it's like Spider-Man and Minority Report and the Avengers. It's
Kind
exactly
of feels like
all of
Ghost
those
Runner
things.
too.
Yeah, that's actually a great comparison. It is a lot like Ghost Runner. It's like a
Ghost
2D
Runner,
pixel
Minority
art Ghost
Report.
Runner. Yeah.
Yeah.
So those of you who have played Ghost Runner, it has a very similar like where you fail and then you can immediately reload and start over. It's got a very similar vibe to that. Or like Hotline Miami is another one where you kind of go through a room and if you die, you just reload immediately and try again, where you can kill everything in one hit and one hit kills you as well. So yeah.
Well, there's something really elegant about that gameplay too.
Yeah,
Again,
it makes you
watching
think.
the gameplay. Yeah,
Yeah.
it makes you think a bit ahead. So it's not just hack and slash where you just mash buttons. You do have to do things in a specific sequence.
Yeah, I like it because it makes everything kind of like a little puzzle, but it's still very action oriented. So it's got a little bit of both. And I think that one thing that the gameplay does really well in this game is it does a really, really great job of taking a simple move set and expanding it in interesting ways with different enemy types and different room layouts and stuff. So you get a lot of mileage out of a fairly simple move set, which is cool. And they also have this. So I guess there's two main gameplay sections. Since it's a pretty story heavy game, there's usually they're broken up into chapters. There's part of the chapter where there's a lot of dialogue and you're talking and getting story, and there's some light interactions there where you can walk around and talk to people, but it's mostly like, here's a bunch of story and then here is your mission, go do your mission. And I found myself enjoying the story parts a lot as well. You get to kind of see a little bit about his day-to-day life. And there's this feature that I haven't seen in another game, at least not that I can think of off the top of my head, where you can cut people off in their dialogue boxes, which I think is fantastic. Like as the dialogue box is kind of crawling across the screen, there's a bar underneath you. And if you push the button, like before they finish talking, you'll interrupt them and be like, get to the point. And I love it. It's so satisfying to be on the phone with your handler and he's giving you your target or whatever. And you're just like, okay, goodbye. And there's even times where you can like hang up on people or just stop talking to them and like walk away. And I was like, what a fun way to just let you kind of role play as a heartless assassin who's like, just tell me what I need to do, you know?
That sounds so much more satisfying than in the Bethesda games where you're just constantly skipping all the dialogue as fast as you can.
Yeah, it's the opposite of the owl in Ocarina of Time. You can just cut them off and say, shut up, I'm done.
Shut up.
So I think that was super fun as well. But all right, next, let's talk a little bit about visuals and sound. As you guys, I'm sure, are completely unsurprised by the games that I enjoy usually have really great visuals and really great sound. So we'll start with the visuals. The visuals in this game are spectacular. It utilizes pixel art, but it is a very modern looking kind of a pixel art. So they use some modern lighting effects. And something that I really like is because the game is such a like moody neon atmosphere, they use light in really interesting ways. And so like your pixel art characters will reflect light, you know, like if your character walks underneath a green glowing light, the outer pixels you'll have a nice rimlet effect around your sprite character, which I think is cool. So lots of dynamic lighting on pixel art and it looks really nice. So very cool.
The color palette, it kind of feels like the downtown Tokyo vibes. Is it a formal like known location or is that just the vibe that they're going for?
I think that's just the vibe. It doesn't explicitly state where it's taking place, at least not to my memory. I played this game a few times and I played through the first like couple hours this week just to kind of refresh my memory, but I didn't play all the way through. So I don't remember if it specifically states, but I don't think it does.
It does say, okay, it says here it's a neo-noir city of New Mecca, but
that's right.
Just a fictional
which is
city.
A fictional city. I do remember that now that you mention it. Yeah.
It does very much kind of have Tokyo vibes to me, though. Like looking at the color palette in particular, the bright neons, the pinks, the blues, those make it seem very...
It's like 80s Tokyo mafia noir. It's fantastic.
Very much that
beautiful
vibe. Yeah, the visuals are really, really cool that way. And I mentioned it briefly before, but all of the animations are buttery smooth, delicious, so good.
I said mafia. This would be what's it? The
Yakuza?
Yeah, Yakuza. Sorry. Mafia would not make sense in this context.
You're going to get us canceled by the mafia,
Yakuza.
Shan. Yeah.
I think I've said it like 3 times. I need to clean that up.
So if you don't see us on here next week, it's because the Yakuza came and killed us for getting their names wrong. So,
no, mistake. Yakuza, very mad.
With a heart surgeon. Where it's, I don't know if you've ever seen that part of The Office. Yeah. Anyways, it's all about inside jokes with us. We're just going to make inside jokes and you may or may not understand what we're talking about.
Okay, so I have a question about the visuals, because as I'm watching the gameplay, there's like this snake element where people get exclamation marks over their heads and you hear that sound where is that just all the sneaking noticing system? Like, what do the exclamation marks and question marks mean?
So it means I think snake, like Metal Gear Solid, you kind of hit it on the head there. It's like, if there's an exclamation point, it means that they know that you're there and they're going to be coming towards you. And then the question mark means that they're suspicious. It is kind of it's a very tertiary system in the game, though, because it's not a stealth game.
Okay, it doesn't look very stealth.
No, you can try to kind of like move through without... I think that the developer included it as a way so that you could know when enemies are like, oh no, I know he's here. But I mean, most of the time they know you're there because you're flying around and slicing things up, and yeah. So
okay, it's like they want to engage in a Pokemon battle with you.
Yeah, it's also when they want to engage in a Pokemon battle. Yeah. There is one stealth chapter though where you can be stealthy. So,
but it's mostly this fast-paced, fluid.
It's 99% this fluid run around slash stuff. Yeah.
So my last immediate observation with the visuals is, I mean, after this person has cleared like a whole screen, there's just slashes of red everywhere. It's like you leave this area of the map like a Jackson Pollock painting.
Yep. It's exactly, yeah. I love when you slice someone, the blood splatter is it is overly gratuitous, but for like an artistic kind of, so when you're done in the room, you can kind of look back and there's just like on the walls and the ceilings, and there's just little splats of, not little, huge splats of blood everywhere. And
so much
with the lighting the way that it is, like sometimes it's got kind of like a pinkish hue, and it like really nails this kind of neon vibe really well, where the blood is not always very blood colored. It's got this kind of like neo noir vibe thing to it. So very cool. I agree with that. Yeah,
it's beautiful.
It is beautiful in a weird kind of gross way.
In a really gross way.
Bringing a black light in here.
It looked like a Jackson Pollock painting.
Yeah. It better be blood, urine, or semen. Oh God,
I hope it's blood.
It's blood.
Well, in Katana Zero's case, it's definitely blood.
It's all blood all the time.
All blood. So, all right. So next, talking a little bit about the audio. I think sound design is really good in this, and the music in this game is particularly awesome. It's a game published by Devolver Digital, and they are widely known for, they really like to have gratuitous violence and really great soundtracks in their games. And so the music in this game is composed by, and these are not American names, so apologies ahead of time. If I'm wrong, tell me in the comments and I'll do my best.
Well,
but composed
I can
by,
kind of pronounce Japanese names if you need
it's not
help.
Japanese. It's, I think, I have no idea. But so composed by Lodwick and then Bill Keeley, which is an American name. So
Ludwig.
Ludwig. It's, yeah, I don't know if it's spelled Lodwick, Ludwig. It's Lodewijk.
Oh, okay.
So,
then
I thought it's,
yeah.
I'm not
on the
going to
wiki,
jump in
it's
here.
spelled Ludowic.
See, and I might have spelled it wrong. So anyways, it has an excellent soundtrack. And I'm very sorry for the super talented people and butchering your names.
Well, for the German artist Ludwig, I would like to shout out that the first track is banging.
It really is.
No, it's okay.
It really
Luke
is,
has
though.
German heritage. That's what makes it okay.
It's fine.
That's what
Yeah,
makes it
that's what makes
okay.
it okay.
But so it's multiple artists throughout, like Ludovic, Bill, Kylie, DJ Electrohead, though.
Yeah. That's actually my favorite song. My favorite song on the soundtrack is the one by DJ Electrohead.
And I have to also shout out, because on the wiki it has the soundtrack, it also has where the songs play in the game. And Ludovic has a track, All For Now, during the boss battle with Mr. Kissyface.
Play
There's
the game,
a boss
you guys.
called Mr. Kissyface?
Of course there is.
I'm so excited.
You should. So yeah, we'll just leave that where it is as a intrigue. Play the game. But yeah, the soundtrack, like Luke was saying, is fantastic. It's got a lot of like 80s inspired synth wave kind of music, and it's very bassy and very thumping, but then there are calmer moments in the story where it's still got this nice kind of synth vibe. It has a very 80s kind of a atmosphere to it. Yeah.
Grungy.
Yeah. So I really, and I say this every episode, but this is another soundtrack where if I'm working, I pop my headphones on, I listen to the Katana Zero soundtrack all the time. It's a good one to just kind of, I do it while I draw, I do it while I work. It's a good soundtrack, right? And as far as final thoughts, I kind of went over everything that I love. Like, why I love this game is just what's not to love. It's got beautiful pixel art. It has an engaging story. It's got a pulse-pounding soundtrack. It's basically a perfect gameplay loop. It's just a really great game. Super, super enjoyable. Any closing thoughts from you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of Blade Runner, which, invented this whole cyberpunk aesthetic. Give a shout out to the origins of that genre. And I love the neon aesthetic. I think that art aesthetic always calls attention to itself, and any artist that knows how to use that color palette correctly and knows how to choose contrasting colors. It seems like it's an easy thing, right? Like you just choose colors that pop, but like really you have to choose like
it's so hard. I'm not
actually,
good at it.
It's actually
an artist,
really hard.
It's hard. I really struggle with color theory. It's something that I'm actively working on trying to get better at. But some people, they get it, and it's amazing.
But see, it's like kind of hard to explain, right? Because like traditionally you choose like a hit color, and then you choose like a secondary color that's desaturated or tinted, and then that complements the hit color and it elevates it. But like when you're choosing a palette like this, you're choosing like 2 or 3 colors that are competing against each other.
It's like every color, because everything is so bright and saturated, and there are often times where there are so many colors happening that they should clash, but they're tied together artistically somehow, because he is a genius. He's a genius. Let me look up his name again because I forgot it. But Justin Stander is spectacular. He's amazing.
Yeah. So it takes an extra level of talent, and you said that this is like a story-driven game. Just the level of talent for indie developers to be that consummate talent, to be the whole package, is just spectacular. Because I feel like I can barely be good at and have a depth of talent at one thing, but to be the kind of talent that can be logically minded to develop, but to also be talented enough to write, and to also be talented enough to, no, it's not the same person that did the music here, but I know some people also do that, but just to be that well-rounded person that has enough time in their life to do all of those things. I always admiring these people that are multifaceted and are just like drawn to balance their lives with all of these things and be great at it.
Yeah, I'm always particularly inspired by indie devs. I love indie games. I think that it's a medium where passionate people get to create things that they're passionate about, and I love that so much. And I think you articulated that very well. It always leaves me in awe what indie developers can create.
So to sum up all the analogies we've put together, you're Ryan Gosling in Blade Runner, but you have a sword. You're also Tom Cruise in The Minority Report with a sword. And you also have Spider-Man / Sherlock Holmes-esque precognitive awareness abilities.
You're Ronin.
You're also Ronin. And
you're in Tokyo.
You're also in Tokyo
80s.
In the 80s.
And Ghost Runner.
And you're also Ghost Runner.
Okay. Yeah. Right. And then you fight someone named Mr. Kissy Face.
And you fight Mr. Kissy Face. What's not to love? He's so cute.
I love this game.
Yeah. It's fantastic. Anyone who hasn't played it, rectify that. It's spectacular. Yeah. And so it's not a super long game, 5 to 8-ish hours. So I feel like it really hits that sweet spot for an indie game. Doesn't wear out its welcome, but it's long enough to keep you busy for a little bit. It's available on Switch, Xbox One, Windows, Mac OS, Android, and iOS. And it's only $14.99. So it's a bargain. All right. All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us today. Remember that you can find our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Be sure to like and enable notifications so that you can know when all of our new episodes drop. New episodes of our regular series drop every Thursday. New episodes of Eric's Indie Corner drop I got that backwards. New episodes of our regular series drop on Monday. New episodes of Eric's Indie Corner drop on Thursdays. So like, comment, subscribe. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Thank you all for listening. We appreciate you taking time to hang out with us, and we'll catch you next time. Bye, y'all.
Peace.
Bye.
Outro. Bleep-a-doof, bleep-a-deep, bloop-a-dee-blow.